Chapter 1. My fiancé slapped me across the face. Hard. Violently. Right in front of everyone. Just to save face. That very same day. I deleted every single way he could contact me. No one could believe it. Eric and I grew up together. From 6 to 24. I followed behind him like a shadow for 18 entire years. On the day I was leaving the country, he stopped me. His voice carrying a confusion I had never heard from him before. Why? Just because I hit you? I looked straight into his eyes and said, word by word, yes, just because you hit me. When that slap landed, my world went silent. Eric's palm sliced through the air with vicious force. A dull smack exploded against my cheek. My head snapped to the side. A metallic taste flooded my mouth. My ears rang violently, as if thousands of bees were beating their wings inside my skull. I staggered, gripping the edge of the desk, fingertips trembling. My left cheek went numb first, then burned, hot and sharp, like a branding iron pressed to my face. When I looked up, Eric's hand was still frozen midair, knuckles pale. My childhood sweetheart, my fiancé, had just slapped me on behalf of his female secretary. He realized what he'd done. His expression stiffened for a millisecond. But anger and impatience quickly swallowed everything else. Selena, can you stop making trouble? A low snicker broke out somewhere in the office. Most people didn't speak. They just watched the show. Luna's chestnut curls shimmered like honey under the lights. She leaned against Eric's arm, her red lips curving mockingly. Eric, don't be so fierce. Look, you scared her. Your little sister is about to cry. Eric's jaw tightened. The anger in his eyes hadn't faded at all. Selena, this is a company, not your home. Can you stop already? His voice was cold enough to frost glass, and the room filled with more stifled laughter. I wiped at the moisture at the corner of my mouth, unable to tell whether it was blood or tears. 18 years. I had seen every one of Eric's bad tempers, but I never knew he could hit someone so painfully. Shame, humiliation, and fury twisted in my chest. My nails dug deep into my palm. Eric opened his mouth to say something else, but I no longer wanted to hear it. I grabbed my bag and rushed out through the glass doors. Someone whistled behind me. Look at her run, like a penguin. Ha ha ha. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I didn't want to work, didn't want to stay there, didn't want to face those people. Eric had always been impatient with me, but he had never hit me before. And not only that, this was the first time in my entire life anyone had slapped me. When I was 6, we moved into a new home. Eric was squatting in the hallway playing with a toy car. Sunlight streamed from the window at the end of the corridor, stretching his shadow long, so long it touched the tip of my shoe. We lived next door, our two families sharing a small garden. My mom always said, Eric and I were like two saplings growing door to door. Only his sapling had grown taller and sturdier than mine from the start. The winter in 2nd grade was brutally cold. When Ryan stuck his chewed gum into my ponytail, the classroom burst into loud, piercing laughter. Later, I cried, and the homeroom teacher smoothed things over. It's because you're pretty, so the boys want to tease you. He just wants to play with you. Stop crying. That sentence felt far more disgusting than the gum stuck in my hair. I cried the entire way home. Eric's dad found out. Called his son, who was doing homework. Eric, go check class 2-2 tomorrow. The next morning during recess, Eric kicked open the back door of my classroom. I remember that scene for 15 whole years. He pounced on Ryan like a little leopard, his fist slamming onto Ryan's desk with a thud. Listen, he grabbed Ryan by the collar, his little boy voice still soft. Selena is my sister. If you bully her again, I'll kill you. Before leaving, he patted my head to comfort me. From that day on, I became the little tail Eric could never shake off. Chapter 2. In middle school, after playing soccer, he always wanted to get ice pops with his teammates. I would hug my backpack and squat by the field, waiting until the sunset stretched our shadows long across the ground. He would grab me by the collar, cursing, Selena, are you a piece of chewing gum stuck to me? Yet he would still break his strawberry popsicle in half and give the other half to me. He genuinely hated being teased about hanging out with girls. Once, during a street battle game, His buddies started chanting. Eric brought his wife. He got so angry he threw all his glass marbles down the storm drain. But the next day, when I was absent because of a fever, he skipped class and climbed over the school wall to come to my house. Standing outside my window, he tossed in little paper notes, each covered in crooked, silly jokes. When we entered high school, I caught Eric staring at me countless times. When I chewed on my pen while solving math problems. When I tucked stray hairs behind my ear. Even when I napped on my desk. His gaze brushed over me like the wings of a summer cicada. Light, fleeting, gone in an instant. Eric. I suddenly turned my head and caught his gaze before he could look away. How do you solve this question? His fountain pen fell onto the desk with a clack. Morning light poured through the window, illuminating the tips of his red ears until they looked almost transparent. He scrambled to pick up the pen, the ends of his hair brushing across the back of my hand. You just substitute the sex. His voice grew quieter and quieter, eventually dissolving into a muffled mumble. I rested my chin on my hand and looked at him. So the boy who never blinked while fighting for me could still have fingers that trembled just because I leaned close. Outside the window, magnolia petals drifted down onto his open textbook. The night both our families proposed engagement. He dragged me into the fire escape. The sensor light flickered on and off. His palms were sweaty, but his grip on my fingers was tight enough to hurt. Think carefully. His voice was strained. You're still young. What if you meet someone better in the future? I tiptoed and covered his lips with my hand. You're already the best person in the world. He shuddered, then suddenly pinned me against the wall and kissed me. In the dark, my fingers brushed across the scar on the back of his neck, left from when he shielded me from falling debris in 8th grade. Moonlight filtered through the metal grating, splintering across both of us. After we graduated from college, I entered his company and became Eric's subordinate. Just when we were about to get engaged, Luna appeared. She was the company's new intern, and also Eric's secretary. On her first day, she brought coffee for everyone, smiling sweetly. Please take care of me, everyone. But when she handed mine over, she suddenly paused. Oh my God, she covered her mouth and laughed. There are still people who use Hello Kitty thermoses? When she saw I wasn't reacting, she bit her lip and added, sorry, I'm just really blunt. I didn't mean you look tacky. But sis, how old are you? Still using kitty stuff? I thought professional women were supposed to look elegant and stylish. All eyes in the office snapped toward me like spotlights. My cartoon keyboard. My figurines. Even the Hello Kitty dust stickers on my monitor. All the little things Eric once fondly called Selena's protective charms were now being judged under the harsh gaze of the entire office. My ears buzzed violently, as if someone had poured acid directly into my skull. Luna's laugh was like a power drill, boring an ugly hole straight through the tiny world I had built for myself. Ha ha ha, sorry. I'm just straightforward by nature. She tilted her head, her new crystal nails tapping on my melody coaster. Don't tell me you can't even take a joke, big sis? My fingers tightened around the hem of my skirt until my knuckles turned white. Enough. Eric's voice came from behind me. When I turned around, the corners of his lips were already lifting into a dangerous curve. Sunlight streamed in from the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him, gilding the outline of his figure. For a moment, he looked just like the boy who used to fight for me in middle school. Luna pouted unhappily. Come on, I was just joking with Big Sister Boss. You're not seriously going to interfere with this too, right? This office is not a place for chatting. Secretary, if you want to chat, I suggest you resign and chat to your heart's content. In the end, Luna sulked back to her desk. Chapter 3. I didn't know when Eric and Luna's relationship started getting closer, but one day, the lunch the housekeeper sent from home suddenly became 3 portions. None of these dishes are what I like to eat. My voice was trembling. Eric didn't even look up from the reports. Today we're eating light meals. Luna said eating light once in a while can cleanse the stomach. Luna carried her coffee and sat beside me. Sis, sorry. Her fingertips tapped the coffee cup, producing a dull knocking sound. I forgot you don't eat light meals, but adults eating more light food really is healthier. She deliberately didn't finish the sentence, but the smirk on her lips completed the rest. You really like calling people sis, don't you? My voice was very soft. But my parents only have one daughter. And, aren't you actually 1 month older than me? The office fell into sudden, deathly silence. Luna's expression froze like someone slapped her. The eyeliner she carefully drew twitched at the corner of her eye. Eric finally put down his documents, but frowned at me. Selena, you're going too far. The boy who once fought for me just because others called me delicate was now scolding me for going too far. For another woman. Too far? I let out a cold laugh and turned to leave. Eric reacted on instinct and grabbed me. Just like back in 8th grade when some punks cornered me in an alley. But this time, his embrace carried another woman's perfume. The compromise that came from his lips was impatient. Annoyed. All right. I'll ask the maid to make Chinese food tomorrow. Is that good enough? Luna's expression instantly darkened. Chapter 4. Starting the next day. Luna's targeting of me intensified. I carried a bag with Lena Bell hanging from it to work, and she immediately covered her mouth in exaggerated shock, raising her voice 8 octaves. Woo, Chanel paired with Lena Bell? Selena, are you living in a Disney castle? A few male colleagues laughed along with her. During lunch, I wiped the disposable chopsticks with a wet tissue. She elbowed the guy next to her and deliberately mimicked my voice. Oh, my chopsticks need to be disinfected first. Is she a runaway Disney princess? Ha ha ha. Several guys played along, making goofy faces, as if this was the funniest thing in the world. At the company's annual workstation rearrangement, I was carrying my monitor, arms sore, and had just stopped to catch my breath when Luna slapped her desk loudly and started shouting like a street performer. Look! The runaway Disney princess can't carry her stuff anymore. Any knights willing to rescue the damsel in distress? She and a group of male colleagues laughed so hard they nearly fell over. Someone even whistled. At first, Eric would still frown and mumble. All right, don't go too far. But Luna always giggled and coquettishly acted cute. It's just a joke. Selena's always so stiff. I'm helping her become a little more Eric went quiet for a moment, then nodded in agreement. She is a bit too introverted. Are girls nowadays all this delicate? Luna immediately hit him playfully. Hey, don't lump everyone together. I'm not like that. Eric laughed, a hint of admiration in his eyes. My heart felt like it was being squeezed violently. Yes, Eric always thought I was fragile, dramatic, too introverted. In his eyes, liking anime was childish. Being clean was neurotic. Being quiet meant being uptight. But these things were once what he indulged and protected, until that day, when I finally exploded. That year during Chinese New Year, I went to Sanya with my parents for vacation. The sea breeze was gentle, the sun warm, and we had a great time. So when I returned after the holiday, my skin was a honey brown every time I got tanned. I just stayed home for half a month and my skin returned to normal. So I didn't think much of it. But on the first workday back, when I walked into the office wearing a pink knit sweater, Luna's gaze wrapped around me like a venomous snake. Oh my God! She suddenly raised her voice sharply and dramatically covered her mouth. Selena, you're this dark and you still dare to wear pink? Her laugh was sharp and piercing, like fingernails scraping across a chalkboard. Ha 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 ha, I'm dying. You really don't look like a Disney princess today. You know? Since when does Disney have a princess as dark as you? After saying that, she turned to the guy beside her and winked. Look at her. She's so ugly right now. A group of male colleagues burst into loud laughter. I stood frozen in place, blood rushing violently to my head. And Eric, he was standing right beside her, looking at me with the corner of his lips slightly raised. In that moment, I heard something shatter. Maybe it was 18 years of childhood friendship. Maybe it was the affection I held for this fiancé. I picked up the coffee on my desk and splashed it hard onto Luna's face. Luna screamed, her makeup instantly smearing. Coffee dripped down her cheeks like 2 black tear tracks. Cough, cough. Are you insane? She wiped at her face in panic, her mascara clumping together. I let out a cold laugh and mimicked her usual tone. Woo, didn't you say you were a man? Then why do you show up to work in full makeup? Double eyelid tape, fake lashes, lipstick. Honestly, you look more like a woman than I do. A few colleagues rushed over to stop me, and Eric snatched the cup from my hand, his eyes cold as ice. Selena, apologize. I stared at him, my eyes burning. But my voice was strangely calm. She humiliated me, and you were laughing. Now I shut her up. And you want me to apologize? He frowned, as if lecturing an unruly child. Stop throwing a tantrum. You did something wrong, so you apologize. Apologize your father. The air froze for 1 second. The next second, his palms struck my face, hard. Paw. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard Luna's smug sniffles. Heard the whispers among my colleagues. Heard 18 years of bond shatter completely beneath that slap. I slowly lifted my head and looked at the boy, who once fought for me without blinking. Eric, I said softly. We're done. Chapter 5. The sound of me slamming the door startled the sensor light in the entryway. I rushed into my room and tore the place apart like a madwoman. The little prince figurine on the top shelf. The pink hoodie he gave me stuffed deep in the closet. The faded movie ticket stubs in the drawer. Everything bearing Eric's mark was shoved violently into a cardboard box. Clink. A glass star jar fell from the shelf and shattered across the floor. It was the 365 origami stars Eric folded overnight for my 18th birthday. Inside each one, he had written, Eric likes Selena. I stared at the shiny broken pieces scattered everywhere, and suddenly burst out laughing. I lifted the heavy cardboard box, carried it outside, and threw it straight into the trash bin, startling a few sparrows into flight. After doing all that, my parents still weren't home. I called my mom. Mom. My voice was frighteningly calm. Cancel the engagement. Eric and I broke up. When my mom arrived home, I was pressing an ice pack to my face. She took one look at me and gasped, her well-kept hands trembling. Who hit you? I buried my head in her shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of laundry detergent from her clothes. And suddenly I started sobbing like a child. Eric's indifference. Luna's mockery. Those humiliating stares in the office. Every grievance broke through all at once. After hearing everything, my gentle, elegant mother lost all composure and stormed out of the house. When Eric's mother opened the door, she was still wearing an apron, holding flowers she was about to arrange. What happened? Your son slapped Selena for an intern? My mother's voice was ice cold. Madam, search your conscience. Has our family ever wronged yours? Selena has grown up so well behaved. I have never laid a finger on her in her entire life. Eric's mother tried to defend him, her voice breaking. Eric surely didn't mean it. My mom didn't listen. She cut her off. There's nothing more to say. The marriage between our families is cancelled. That night, my mother held me on the bay window. Her familiar jasmine scent reminded me of how she used to hold me through the night when I had a fever as a child. Mom. I buried my face in her shoulder, my voice muffled. Will me being this impulsive affect your business? My mother gently stroked my hair. Baby, none of that is your concern. All you need to do is live happily every day. If the sky falls, your dad will hold it up. Chapter 6. The next day, Eric's knocking hit the door like a torrential downpour. When I opened it, he stood under the dim yellow porch light, his chest rising and falling sharply, still clutching the rain-soaked cardboard box. Selena! His voice was hoarse. What kind of tantrum are you throwing now? I silently lifted my face, letting him see the vicious slap mark on my left cheek. The bruising had spread beneath the skin. 5 purple fingerprints blooming like a shameful brand seared into my flesh. Eric's pupils tightened sharply. You, how could? He reached out, and his fingers froze just before touching my cheek. I didn't use that much force. I let out a cold laugh and dodged his touch. Once upon a time, even a paper cut would make me lift my hand to him. Pouting. Eric. Blow on it. Back then he always grumbled about me being a crybaby, yet still carefully applied a band-aid for me. But it was also him who personally slapped me across the face. Eric had never seen me this cold. For a moment, he looked utterly stunned. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Selena. You were bullying a young girl at the company, and I got angry. I cut him off. Since you're here, let me make it clear. Starting today, we're breaking up. And the engagement between our families is cancelled. Eric. From now on, please call me by my full name. If we meet on the street, don't come near me, and never knock on my door like this again. His pupils shrank fiercely. As if something stabbed him, night seeped between us, painting his outline in a cold, bluish hue. Leave. I leaned against the doorframe, my voice soft. Eric. Eric stared at me in confusion. Is it because I defended Luna? Or because I slapped you? Emotions churned in his eyes. Unreadable. Selena, when did you become so petty? Eric. I pried his fingers off the doorframe one by one. It's not about a slap. It's about you choosing to stand with the person who humiliated me. The hallway light suddenly went out, before the darkness swallowed us whole. The last thing I saw was his reddened eyes, overlapping perfectly, with the boy who once got hurt protecting me, and still smiled, saying it doesn't hurt. Eric stood frozen. The cardboard box slipped from his hand with a dull thump. A glass star rolled out. Fractured light scattering across the floor. Eric's expression stiffened. As if he didn't recognize the person in front of him. He had seen me cry, laugh, sulk, and cling to him, but he had never seen me like this, cold as ice. Even my gaze sharpened with frost. I didn't mean it, Selena. His Adam's apple bobbed. His voice was hoarse. I was just blinded by anger. I shook my head. I don't want to hear it. The night wind swept through the hallway window, carrying away my last sentence. Eric, don't ever come looking for me again. Eric suddenly grabbed my wrist. His grip so tight it nearly crushed bone. His eyes were blood red, like an enraged trapped beast. Is it worth it? He gritted his teeth. For one slap, you're throwing away 20 years of feelings? Selena, when did you become so unreasonable? I looked at his furious face calmly, and suddenly recalled how in 9th grade, he beat up a boy who harassed me, expression just as cold. And yet now, this same fury was aimed at me. It is worth it, Eric. I say it's worth it. Eric suddenly laughed, colder than the night wind. Fine, wonderful. He released my wrist. Break up then, Selena. Good for you. I hope you don't come crawling back one day. As he turned, he knocked over the potted plant in the hallway. The shattering pot triggered the garden's sensor light. I stood in the flickering glow, watching his back disappear around the stairwell corner, as if watching the boy who once fought for me vanish completely into time. From next door came the soft click of a lock. Eric's father stood in the doorway. He looked at me, opened his mouth, but in the end only sighed quietly. That night I dreamed of 18-year-old Eric, shouting beneath the starry sky, Selena, we'll be together forever and ever. Chapter 7. The next day at work, gossip in the office pantry spread like wildfire. It turned out Eric and Luna were officially dating. When I passed by with my Americano, I happened to see Luna tiptoeing to fix Eric's tie. Her freshly painted cherry red nails were blinding under the morning light. Eric, she said in a syrupy voice, let's celebrate tonight at my favorite Japanese place, okay? Eric's gaze shifted past her shoulder, and suddenly met mine. He instinctively wanted to step back, but Luna hooked her arm around his neck. She followed his line of sight and turned around, shooting me a victorious smile. At my desk, the group chat was exploding. I heard Luna came in the boss's car this morning. I saw hickeys on her neck. Is Selena okay? I closed the chat window and thought back to last month's team dinner, when Luna raised a glass of sake and said, I hate hanging out with women. They're so noisy. Half her body was draped over Eric's chair. It's better to hang out with guys. Men don't throw tantrums over every little thing like those women. The moment she finished, the female colleagues exchanged knowing glances. The next morning, Luna whined on her social media, got isolated by the female coworkers again, crying emoji. Honesty sure gets you excluded. Attached was a picture of the milk tea Eric bought to comfort her. That evening at home, I sprawled on the couch ranting to my parents. My mom was arranging flowers. When she heard my complaints, she clipped off a rose thorn with a snap. I've seen enough of this kind of woman. Baby, don't get too close to her. You'll only suffer for it. Talking behind people's backs isn't very nice. Eric's voice came from the entryway. He was carrying lychees his dad asked him to deliver. But his eyes were cold as ice. The living room fell silent. Only the sound of scissors snipping flower stems remained. Looking back now, maybe from that moment on, I became to him a narrow-minded gossip, and Luna became the straightforward and genuine white moonlight in his heart. I wiped the coffee stain from the rim of my cup. So bitter. Later I finally understood. Somewhere along the line, he and Luna had already built a deep friendship. Luna could make PowerPoints, and she was genuinely good at it. Smooth animations, clean layout, even the data visualization Eric used to struggle with, became clear at a glance when I used to revise his proposals. I couldn't help nagging. The logic here is wrong. That color scheme is too harsh. Luna wasn't like that. She would rest her cheek on her hand, lean in close to the screen, her hair brushing faintly across Eric's arm. Eric, I made this bar chart animated for you. The slight flush at the tips of Eric's ears was exactly the same as when I once unexpectedly kissed his cheek. It was even more obvious during team building. Last time we went to play pool, I always avoided such activities. But Luna's clean sweep with a single break earned excited cheers every time. Eric's buddies hooked their arms around his shoulder, jeering, "Luna suits you more. Way better than that crybaby." I had accidentally seen their private chat messages before. Luna sent an exaggerated crying emoji. "Selena scolded me again today QAQ. Eric replied, "Ignore her. She's probably on her period again." During a department meeting one time, Luna openly sat on Eric's lap, twirling his tie around her finger. "We're in a proper relationship, unlike some people who cling on just because they grew up together." Then she looked straight at me. "By the way, you're not jealous, are you?" Eric didn't push her away. He just stared at me with a strange look, like he was scrutinizing someone he disliked. At that moment, I finally understood. Childhood bonds can't compare to someone new descending from the heavens. 18 years of companionship, lost to 3 months of infatuation. People were sneaking glances at me, their eyes filled with pity and curiosity. After all, the whole company knew that the girl who once smiled only at Eric was now the backdrop to his new romance. I said nothing, just returned to my desk and continued revising reports. Eric let out a cold snort at the meeting room door. I never looked up, but I could feel his gaze like a burning cigarette butt pressing against the top of my head. Later, their lovey-dovey theatrics escalated. Luna looped a strawberry hair tie around Eric's wrist, the pink elastic digging into his tan skin, like some kind of ownership mark. Kissing noises sometimes echoed from the fire escape. A cleaning lady caught them once, and the whole building heard about it. When they got off work, she always held his arm, and he would smile indulgently. How strange. Scenes that once made my heart flutter now looked like a cheap, badly acted idle drama, until one day after work, Eric stopped me in the parking lot. He smelled like Luna's perfume, yet his expression was unsettlingly complicated. "Selena." His voice was hoarse. "Let's get back together." I let out a cold laugh and rejected him instantly. Eric's fingers clamped around my wrist like iron, burning hot. His grip so tight it nearly crushed bone. His breath was heavy, the bitter scent of coffee brushing against my face. His eyes those of a trapped beast on the verge of collapse. "Selena." His Adam's apple bobbed, his voice suddenly softening. "I was wrong. Let's get back together." "Okay." I laughed. What did Eric take me for? Some backup toy he could summon whenever he wanted? I yanked my hand back hard. "Eric, listen carefully." The elevator chimed open with a ding, and Luna rushed out, face deathly pale. She wasn't even wearing makeup. Her hands clenched a medical report. The moment she saw us, her tears burst out like a broken dam. "Eric! The baby is gone." Eric's expression froze instantly. He let go of me and turned to support her, but she violently slapped his hand away. "Are you satisfied now?" Luna cried as she threw the miscarriage report at my face. The edge of the paper sliced my cheek like a blade. "Now my and Eric's baby is gone. Are you finally happy?" Eric's hand clamped around my wrist like a branding iron. So tight that I could feel my pulse hammering against his palm. His eyes were frighteningly dark. As if he wanted to tear me apart alive. Why? I didn't. Believe it or don't. I don't care. Selena, he growled, voice hoarse. When did you become so vicious? I kicked his knee with all my strength. My heel left a gray mark on his tailored suit pants. I said I didn't. And also, get lost. Don't touch me. The moment Eric loosened his grip from the pain, a slender hand suddenly reached in between us. Long fingers rested lightly on Eric's wrist. Yet his expression changed instantly. Sir. A cool, steady voice carried an unmistakable pressure. Forcing a lady is not gentlemanly behavior. I snapped my head up, colliding with a pair of smiling, peach blossom eyes. Oliver, the legendary senior from the law school, the sharp-tongued debater who once reduced his opponent to speechlessness. Senior? I froze on the spot. After the final round of the university debate competition 3 years ago, we had never crossed paths again. I didn't expect our reunion to be in a place like this. Oliver's lips curved slightly. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, Selena, cooperate. The warm brush of his breath grazed my earlobe, and in the same instant, his fingers tightened sharply. Eric let out a muffled groan and released me. I didn't wait for Eric to react. I got in my car and drove off, through the rearview mirror. The last thing I saw was Oliver standing between us, one hand calmly adjusting his cufflink. Elegant and dangerous, like a snow leopard guarding its territory. Chapter 8. The next day was the team-building event. I wasn't feeling well. The sunlight was harsh and blinding. I walked at the very end of the group, cold sweat already soaking through my back. When dark spots started creeping into the edges of my vision, I finally realized something was wrong. The moment my knees hit the gravel path, a chorus of gasps erupted around me. Selena! A familiar scent rushed toward me. Eric's arm wrapped around my waist, the grip so tight it nearly crushed my ribs. His fingertips were trembling, yet his voice pretended to sound calm. You skipped breakfast again, didn't you? The circle formed by our coworkers fell into sudden silence. Luna stood 3 steps away, her freshly made manicure digging so hard into her water bottle that the plastic twisted with a sharp crack. Let go. I pushed against his chest, his heart beat under the fabric fast and heavy. I can do it myself. Let go. But Eric's eyes suddenly turned red. Do you have to be like this? His voice dropped extremely low. Even if you hate me, don't punish your body just to spite me. From a distance came hurried footsteps. The medical staff accompanying us pushed through the crowd. A packet of torn open glucose powder clutched in his hand. A coworker who was close to me knelt down on one knee and brought it to my lips, then lifted her eyebrow at Eric. Boss, seems like your girlfriend needs you more. Following her gaze, everyone finally noticed Luna crouching on the ground, clutching her stomach. Eric froze on the spot, and his arm finally loosened its grip. I took the glucose and swallowed it in one go. As the liquid slid down my throat, I suddenly remembered the basketball game when I was 16. Eric running across half the court, just to shove a strawberry candy into my hand, when I had low blood sugar. Chapter 9. The team-building event ended with a colleague from HR driving me home. When my mom saw the bruise on my knee, she panicked so badly she almost cried, insisting on taking me to the hospital for a checkup. I couldn't argue with her, so at dusk we went to the nearest general hospital. The waiting area was empty, with only one figure sitting in the corner. Junior? Oliver lifted his head, and under the pale lights, his eyes were surprisingly bright. His knee was wrapped in thick layers of gauze, dark red blood already soaking through to the outermost layer, like red plum blossoms blooming on snow. What happened to you? I frowned instinctively, following my gaze. He looked down, then suddenly laughed. Nothing. Rear-ended someone today. He said it so casually, as if he were saying, just grabbed a cup of coffee. When the nurse pushed a medicine cart past us, I heard her mutter under her breath, knee stitched 8 times and he says nothing. Oliver's ears instantly turned red. He hurried to change the subject. You look a little pale. Low blood sugar again? He pulled a fruit candy from his coat pocket like he was doing a magic trick. Strawberry flavor. Heard you like it. I was too embarrassed to refuse, so I nodded and accepted it. In the following days, we kept running into each other at the hospital. He came to change his dressing. I came for blood sugar checkups. Sometimes when it rained, he would limp beside me under his umbrella and walk me all the way to the parking lot. It was strange. This man who once left opponents speechless in debate competitions was unbelievably gentle in private. That day, the sun in the hospital corridor was especially warm. Oliver sat on the bed in the dressing room, the tips of his ears red. Junior, his fingers unconsciously picking at the loose thread on his gauze. I think we're very compatible. You're single. I'm single. Maybe you could consider giving me a chance? The test report in my hand slipped and hit the floor with a loud smack. Sorry. No rush. He bent down to pick up the paper. The movement tugged at his wound. But he didn't even frown. I have plenty of patience. A week later, Oliver began appearing downstairs at my company. Monday, he held a dewy bouquet of pink tulips, said he passed by a flower shop and thought they'd suit me. Wednesday, he brought a limited edition strawberry cake, claimed it was a buy one get one free and he didn't want to waste it. Friday, he even bought milk tea for all my coworkers. Most ridiculous of all, my deskmate Lisa voluntarily gave up her seat and even winked at me. Selena, Mr. Oliver says he's here to discuss business. The gossip in the break room got more exaggerated by the day. During lunch break, a close coworker cornered me near the restroom. Heard Oliver has an 8-pack? Is it true? I don't know. Liar! She shook my shoulders dramatically. When he lifted that bouquet yesterday, his shirt stretched in Amy at the front desk size V-line. Outside the glass door, Oliver was bending over to fix my stuck drawer. His perfectly pressed shirt lifted with the movement, revealing a slice of lean, toned waistline. Damn it, he was definitely doing it on purpose. The break room conversation was peaking when she suddenly leaned in, lowering her voice. Be honest, Oliver's abs, are they really that hard? She gestured wildly. I heard his muscle lines glisten when he sweats. Come on, how many packs does he have? Is it nice to touch? I bit the end of my straw, and in my mind flashed a summer afternoon. After a tennis championship, Oliver had lifted his jersey to wipe sweat. That honey-colored waist and abdomen gleaming under the sun. Seems like 8 packs. I muttered without thinking. But I only saw it by accident. Selena, you hit the jackpot. She screamed so loudly I almost dropped my drink, and scrambled to cover her mouth. Just then, a sharp shattering sound echoed from the office floor. Glass had exploded. Eric stood among the fragments, blood dripping from his fingertips, staining the documents beneath in dark red. Luna tried to reach out with a tissue, but he violently flung her hand away. Don't touch me. His voice was hoarse to a terrifying degree, yet his eyes were fixed on me with a desperate intensity. Sunlight slanted in from the floor-to-ceiling windows, washing his face into a paper-white pallor. That expression looked as if he had witnessed a world collapsing right before him. At some point, Oliver appeared behind me. His warm palm landed gently on my shoulder. Junior, I've already booked dinner. Let's go together after work. His voice wasn't loud or soft, just right for the entire office to hear. Eric suddenly bent down to pick up the glass shards. The fragments sliced into his palm, but he seemed completely unaware. Blood trickled along the strap of his wristwatch, dripping onto the beige carpet in thin, winding lines. The entire office fell silent. Eric's hand was still bleeding. Bright red droplets slid down his fingertips, hitting the floor with crisp, tiny taps. Finally, he walked toward me, his stubborn gaze locked on my face, like a gambler pushing in his last remaining chips. Selena. His voice was so hoarse it was barely human. I'm hurt. Can you give me a Band-Aid? Instinctively, I glanced at my bag. There were always Band-Aids in it. Cartoon ones, waterproof ones, medicated ones. It was a habit I'd had since middle school, because Eric was always getting scraped up playing soccer. I don't have any, I heard myself say. Eric's pupils contracted violently. He suddenly grabbed my wrist, his blood-stained fingertips leaving a stark red smear on my sleeve. You clearly, Eric. Oliver stepped in front of me, blocking him. He waved an unopened pack of medical dressings in his hand. Use this. A band-aid. He gave Eric's blood-soaked palm a pointed glance. Won't be enough. Eric staggered back half a step. He looked down at his hand, at the messy smears of blood, and suddenly laughed. That laugh sounded worse than crying. Selena, you're really ruthless. Luna rushed over to grab his arm. Eric, I have band-aids. Let me. Get lost. He flung her hand away. Chapter 10. Eric's blood was still dripping, pooling into a small, glaring patch of red on the floor. I remembered a rainy day in 6th grade. Eric had beaten the boy who pulled my hair until his face was swollen and bruised. On our way home, he swung his bruised wrist and grinned. Selena, you look so ugly when you cry. But he secretly hid the blood-stained sleeve of his school uniform behind his back. Later, that same boy, along with some gang members, pushed Eric out of a second-floor window for revenge. When I found him, he was sitting in a pile of shattered glass, clumsily trying to hide the injuries on his arm. Don't cry, it doesn't hurt. Feels like a cat scratched me. That's all. But blood kept gushing through his fingers, soaking the sleeve of his uniform until it could be wrung out. That night, I ran to 3 different pharmacies and bought an entire box of cartoon band-aids. The next day, when I forcibly pulled up his sleeve, his ears turned scarlet. Selena, do you have no shame? But he still let me cover his battered arm with rows of little pink kittens. And later, Luna strutted past my desk on her 10-centimeter heels and accidentally knocked my bag over when the Hello Kitty band-aids scattered across the floor. She laughed until she almost bent over. Oh my God, Eric. Is your fiancé in elementary school? How childish can she be? And Eric just stood behind her, a faint, indiscernible smile tugging at his lips. I really don't have any band-aids. I looked straight into Eric's eyes. I stopped carrying them a long time ago. Eric suddenly began trembling violently. His blood-stained hand reached out helplessly, as if trying to grab hold of some summer dusk, the one where I had stood on tiptoe to place a band-aid on him, while he looked down at the cowlick on my crown and laughed. Selena, you crybaby, when are you ever going to grow up? His hand paused midair. A bead of blood slid from his fingertip and burst into a tiny red flower on the floor. He suddenly laughed, a fragile laugh, like a crack forming on thin ice. Okay, just one simple word. Yet it seemed to drain all the strength from his body. He withdrew his hand. When he turned around, he stumbled slightly, and his bloody palm left a smeared handprint on the glass door. Luna rushed forward in a panic to support him, but he gently pushed her away. I watched his back fade toward the elevator, and suddenly remembered the same silhouette when he'd finished fighting for me at 16. Back then, the sunset stretched his shadow, long, so long, that it could cover my entire world. But now, the lights cast his shadow on the wall, thin as a sheet of paper, fragile enough to break with a single gust of wind. Oliver silently handed me a wet wipe. Only then did I realize my nails had dug deep into my palm without me noticing. Chapter 11. One day after a meeting, Luna locked the door behind her and trapped me inside the pantry. Selena, her fingertips dug into her own palm. Did you do it on purpose? I stirred my coffee slowly. The milk foam swirled into a small whirlpool at the rim of the cup. I don't understand what you're talking about. Luna suddenly grabbed the sugar jar and smashed it against the wall. Shards of glass scattered at my feet. Stop pretending. Her chest heaved violently. Seeing Eric losing his appetite and sleep because of you. Are you hiding under your blankets laughing your head off? I set down the cup. The bottom of the ceramic tapped sharply against the marble countertop. A crisp click. Miss Luna. I looked straight into her bloodshot eyes. You're wrong about 2 things. First, I said unhurriedly, Eric and I already broke up. The engagement between our families has been canceled. He and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. Second, I turned on the faucet to wash the cup, the sound of running water drowning out her ragged breathing. His current situation is none of my concern. Do not come to me again because of him. I flicked off the water, shook the drops from my hands, and pushed past her rigid body toward the door. As the lock clicked open, her hysterical scream pierced from behind me. You must be so proud of yourself. No, I said, glancing back one last time. I Selena. Know when to pick up and when to let go. It's just a man. If you want him, he's yours. The white fluorescent light cast a cold glow on Luna's face. Her carefully drawn eyeliner had smudged from agitation, making her look like a bedraggled cat. You think you're so great? Her voice was shrill, only because he still can't forget you. Luna. I cut her off. Do you know the difference between humans and animals? She froze. When animals get hit, they wag their tails and beg. I pushed my chair back and stood up. But humans remember the pain. The moment he slapped me. We were finished. She suddenly grabbed my wrist, her manicure digging into my skin. Stop pretending, you spoiled princess. What would you know? I pried each of her fingers off one by one, watching her newly done crystal nails tremble. Oh, I understand just fine. For example, I understand that Eric sent you here to test me. And I understand even better. I leaned close to her ear and whispered. You're feeling awful right now, aren't you? Her body stiffened. I smiled. Being sent by your boyfriend to test his ex's feelings. That's humiliating, isn't it? But you don't have to worry. When I say break up, I mean it. Selena, never recycle old trash. Go back and tell Eric the same thing. I'm serious. There is absolutely no possibility between us anymore. Luna's expression twisted into something complicated. Shame from being exposed. Hurt pride. And confusion. As I walked out, her voice chased after me, tinged with unwillingness. Selena, just because he slapped you? Yes, just because he slapped me. I replied to her again, the same answer as before. Chapter 12. That night, I received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. Without thinking too much, I answered it. The breathing on the other end suddenly became extremely light. So light I almost thought the signal had cut out. Selena. Eric's voice sounded as if scraped by sandpaper. I'm sorry, I saw your diary. My fingers tightened around the phone until the knuckles turned white. The pink satin diary he referred to was the one he spent half the city running around to buy for my 10th birthday. He had sweat on his forehead back then. Yet he proudly lifted his chin and said, Selena, from now on you have to write all your secrets in here. One day, we'll read it together. So? I heard myself let out a cold laugh. You want to repent only now? I heard the rustle of flipping pages over the receiver. Eric's voice suddenly choked. Page 217, you wrote that on the day I propose. You wanted to show me the diary on our wedding night. The neon lights outside the window blurred into a smear of color. I wiped my face hard, only then realizing my palm was wet. Eric. I inhaled deeply. Do you know what's written on the last page? Silence on the other side. It says, I pronounced each word slowly. I threw the diary away today. Goodbye. My 18 years of liking. There was the frantic sound of pages being flipped, as if Eric was desperately searching through the diary. I'm sorry. His voice trembled. Selena. I looked at the snow drifting past the window. That's enough. I softly cut him off. Did you notice the date on the last page? Sudden silence. It was written the day after you slapped me in public. My voice was cold. Eric. Anything you say now means nothing to me. And don't call me again. Don't come looking for me either. I hung up the phone. Chapter 13. On my 24th birthday, my parents held a birthday banquet and asked me to invite my friends. Originally, I didn't want to invite Eric, but thinking of how kind his parents had been to me when I was little, I sent him an invitation anyway. Oliver shamelessly asked me for one too. On the day of the banquet, Eric entered with Luna on his arm just as I was pouring tea for my uncle. Selena has grown up. My uncle patted my hand, but his gaze drifted toward the entrance. That little bastard isn't worthy of you, Uncle. Let's not talk about that. I smiled and refilled his teacup. Drink some tea. Today's tea is quite good. The banquet went smoothly and beautifully. Near the end, I went alone to the terrace, letting the night wind cool my thoughts. The breeze carried the chill of early autumn. Footsteps sounded behind me. Selena. Eric's voice was hoarse beyond recognition. His suit was wrinkled, his tie crooked, the smell of alcohol heavy on him. I don't understand why we became like this. He suddenly grabbed my wrist. We were so close to getting married. We were walking toward happiness together. The night wind suddenly felt colder, sharper. So this is you blaming me? I let out a soft laugh. Blaming me for not forgiving you for slapping me? His pupils shrank, as if my sarcasm had stabbed straight into him. And why? I tilted my head. Should I forgive you? I also heard everything that night at the bar. I curled my lips into a mocking smile. I heard it all. Eric staggered back, as if his spine had been ripped out. I heard your bet. I smoothed my sleeve. Too bad you bet wrong, Eric. If you dare to gamble, then you face the consequences. I turned toward the bright lights in the distance. Don't make me look down on you. That night at the bar, the air was hazy with smoke and alcohol, stinging my eyes. I had just reached the door of the private room when I heard Eric's buddies roaring with laughter. Eric, damn, you've had Selena on a leash for so many years. Aren't you afraid the princess might really dump you this time? Eric lounged lazily against the couch, a playful grin tugging at his lips. Her? Just coax her a bit after so many years. I know her better than anyone. Luna suddenly leaned close, her chestnut curls brushing his shoulder. Honestly, girls like Selena are the easiest to control. Her red lips lifted. Bet you anything, even if you slap her in public. As long as you coax her afterward, she'll come back wagging her tail, amid the neon lights and drunken laughter. Eric tipped back his beer and emptied the bottle in one go. Let's give it a try. He wiped the foam from his lips, smiling carelessly. 18 years of true feelings, reduced to a game of drunken bets. In that moment, the bitterness of hard liquor seemed to seep straight into my chest. On the terrace, Eric's face turned pale as paper. You heard. He stumbled forward, attempting to grab my hand. Selena, that night, I was drunk. It was just a joke, a drunken joke. A joke? I stepped back, the night wind lifting the embers from my dress. But the next day, you actually tried it. I wasn't. Eric. I touched my own cheek. Don't deny it. It's pointless. Do you understand? He froze. I looked straight at him and spoke quietly. You're always preaching about how saying bad things behind someone's back is wrong. Look at yourself. Are you any better? All color drained from Eric's face in an instant. The moonlight illuminated his bleak, twisted smile. He opened his mouth, but in the end his hands simply fell weakly to his side. The night wind lifted the sheer curtains of the terrace, casting a pale blue sheen over his suit, like a statue slowly weathering away. His lips trembled, but no sound came out. I was wrong. What were you thinking back then? I took a step forward, my heel crushing his shadow beneath me. Did you really think I would swallow that humiliation and forgive you? Or did you believe what Luna said, that as long as you coax me, I'd come back wagging my tail like a dog? Eric's head jerked up, his eyes bloodshot. He reached toward me, but froze when he saw the undisguised mockery on my face. See? I laughed softly. Even now, you can't admit it. From the bottom of your heart, you've always looked down on me. Eric's Adam's apple bobbed. If I hadn't hit you. No, I cut him off. Eric, you wavered in this relationship, didn't you? For a moment, you thought marrying me meant a predictable life. Boring and safe. You felt nothing new from me. And then Luna showed up, different from me. Fresh, exciting, a contrast you hadn't seen before. That's normal. Eric, you liked me because we grew up together. Because we matched well. But deep down, you didn't love me enough. You thought I was pretty, sure, but also dull, familiar, boring. Luna wasn't like me. So you were drawn to her. But Eric, if it wasn't Luna, it would have been someone else. Another girl who was different from me. Equally young, equally pretty, equally interesting. You just shouldn't have stepped on me to make your choice. I sneered. How dare you hit me? No one has ever laid a hand on me. Who do you think you are, Eric? Why did you dare to hit me? Eric's expression collapsed, ashen and hollow. I had uncovered the darkest, ugliest truth inside him. And he knew it. He could no longer argue. Selena, did I lose you? Eric. I gave the boy who grew up with me one last look. You didn't lose me. You lost yourself. As I turned away, the terrace's glass door reflected Eric falling to his knees. The moonlight carved his shadow into the ground, like a sharp, cold blade. His suit was still immaculate, but he looked empty, a shell without a soul. Do you not love me anymore? His voice was so faint, it was like he was asking a question he already knew the answer to. I looked at him. The boy I once adored throughout my entire youth now looked like a lost child. I never loved you. Eric staggered, as if struck by an invisible hammer. What did you say? I liked the boy who fought for me, I said calmly. The boy who secretly slipped me strawberry candy. When my blood sugar dropped, the night wind lifted the hem of my skirt. And in the distance, I heard my parents laughing. But that Eric died the night of that bar bet. Tears slid silently down Eric's face. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Do you know something? I looked at the familiar stranger one last time. I'm really glad we didn't get married. As I walked back toward the warm lights inside, I heard a stifled sob behind me. The sound was quickly drowned out by the laughter from the banquet, just like our past, destined to be washed clean by time. Chapter 14. Later, Luna was optimized out of the company. It was said that Eric also broke up with Luna. Eric seemed like a completely different person. He began appearing in my sight every day, like a silent shadow. Every morning, warm soy milk and custard buns would appear on my desk. At lunch, he would reserve the quietest corner of the cafeteria in advance. After work, even with 10 meters between us, his footsteps followed like an echo. What on earth do you want? I finally cornered him at the turn of the staircase. Dusk filtered through the glass window, sketching his gaunt outline with stark clarity. He was still wearing the cufflinks I had given him, bought with 3 months of saved allowance for his last birthday. His Adam's apple bobbed. I just want to repay everything I owe you. I don't need it. I cut him off. The best compensation is for you not to bother me. I didn't tell anyone about my resignation in advance. On the last working day, I simply invited a few close colleagues to dinner and said goodbye. Eric was the last to learn I was going abroad for graduate school. I didn't know where he got the news. On the day I left, he chased behind my car for a long time. Through the car window, the once proud and spirited boy was now running after me in utter desperation. The plane trees on both sides of the road retreated rapidly. The figure in the rearview mirror grew smaller and smaller. Eric's white shirt billowed in the wind, like a bird with broken wings. Selena. His voice shattered beneath the roar of the engine. My mother glanced at me in worry. I shook my head. In the rearview mirror, the running figure shrank to a mere dot, finally disappearing beneath the plane trees at the corner. When the airplane lifted off, I opened the window shade. At 30,000 feet, the sunlight was perfect. Later, news about Eric trickled into my ears bit by bit. Friends said he began drinking heavily, causing trouble more than once at bars. That he had become a rising star in the business world, cold-blooded and terrifying at negotiation tables. And that he changed girlfriends faster than he changed shirts, yet always dialed a number in the middle of the night, a number no one answered. I treated these stories as flavor for my midday coffee, then turned back to my thesis. One day, London had a sun shower. When I rushed into the classroom, I ran straight into Oliver's startled face. His eyes were gentle, dressed casually. Selena, long time no see. He brushed the raindrops from my hair, his smile warmer than the sunset over the Thames. This time, can I court you? During my 2 years abroad, on every birthday, I received an anonymous package. Sometimes it was a labubu I had mentioned once on my moments. Sometimes an out-of-print art book I had liked on Instagram. Once, it was a bottle of the exact orange-scented hand cream I used in childhood. I accepted them all, but never opened them. They piled up in the corner. The rainy season in Cambridge was always long. On graduation day, Oliver stood at the library entrance holding an umbrella, cherry blossoms dotting his shoulders. He wore the same graduation pin as mine, smiling brighter than sunlight. Junior, would you consider dating your senior? I couldn't help laughing and nodded. Later, we worked in the same office building. Every day, he sent something new to my office. Sometimes hot cocoa, sometimes handwritten cards, and once, even 999 roses. One weekend, Oliver finally discovered the pile of unopened gifts in the storage room. He squatted before the box for a long time, then looked up. Should we throw them away? I thought for a moment, then nodded. He stood and hugged me, carrying a hint of cedar scent. Forget it. Throwing them away feels wasteful. How about we donate them to an orphanage? One day, Oliver suddenly pointed at his phone excitedly. Look! In the final picture, the children who received the donations were holding the toys and laughing brightly. The once meticulously wrapped gift box now rested quietly in a child's hands, covered in innocent fingerprints. Outside the window, the year's first snowflake fell upon the sill. Oliver kissed the top of my head. Happy birthday, Selena. Happy birthday to me.